It's finally here. Welcome to the Miracle Zone. More than a podcast, this is a sacred space for visionary leaders and heart-centered entrepreneurs who are ready to take off the masks, set aside the roles, and step into the raw, magical truth of what it actually means to lead in these transformational times. More than just building a business and a brand, you know that you're also here to share your medicine, lead a movement, and leave a legacy. If you've been craving next level conversations to get you to your next level, conversations that blend bold leadership, intuitive wisdom, and a touch of the miraculous, then you're in the right place. Because around here, we don't do things in a linear way. Whether you're already running a thriving business, leading a dream team, and impacting millions, or you're still on your way there, here we'll break free from the old ways of doing things and step into a multidimensional way of creating and leadership. Because in the Miracle Zone, we explore the intersection of business, leadership, and frequency. It's where strategy meets soul, and where visionary ideas become reality. And they happen in a snap. I'm Catarina, your host, guide, and bridge between the practical and the mystical in life and business. I'll share insights, channeled guidance, and heart-opening stories from pioneering leaders like you who are living at the edge and reshaping the way that we lead in this new world. So if you're ready to tap into your miracle frequency, to embrace the heart-led leadership that changes everything, then join me. Because this, my love, this is the Miracle Zone. Welcome, lovely, to another episode of the Miracle Zone podcast, where business, leadership, and frequency align, and where we make it rain miracles in your life and legacy business. In this episode, I'm going to share what the Miracle Zone is and what it's not. And you'll also receive an energetic transmission so you can really feel the Miracle Zone and attune to what I call the miracle frequency. And I wanted to let you know before I jump into the episode that if you've gotten this far and you've listened to the intro, you will have heard one of my songs that's called Pendulum. And my music is all uniquely and intentionally attuned to getting you into the miracle frequency and to support you to getting into the miracle zone. And so that's why my outro is even a little longer than you would expect for a podcast, because that's exactly what we're working with, is this frequency of, okay, we're getting into the miracle zone, And so you've already been doing it by listening in this far. And I just wanted to give you that heads up so that as you're listening to future episodes, you also know that we're working with the frequencies in that way as well. So I wanted to begin in talking about the Miracle Zone to share a little bit about the context of how I got into the discernment of what the Miracle Zone is. So many years ago, I think it was about 10 years ago, I read this book called The Big Leap by Gay Hendricks, which is amazing and I highly recommend it, and I'll include it in the links below. And this book really changed my life. In many ways, there's amazing distinctions in the book, but one of the things that really shifted how I thought about leadership and my business was his concept of acting from different zones. So acting from your zone of incompetence versus your zone of competence versus your zone of excellence versus your zone of genius. And it's such a useful framework, an eye-opening framework, because so many of us are operating, many of us are operating from our zone of incompetence or competence. When we are more refined in our leadership, we are acting more and more from our zone of excellence and zone of genius. And a lot of people are in their zone of excellence and think it's their zone of genius. And so I do recommend this book. It's really amazing. And for many years, I did work with leaders to support them to really align with their zone of genius and use this as an orienting framework for my own personal leadership and in my work with my clients. And also in my family life as well, and thinking about how to allocate my time and energy. And it's a really powerful framework for tapping into greater abundance, greater creativity, more productivity, and just for amplifying how we're living. And so I just want to put in a plug for this book. It really is amazing. And here's what happened is I started noticing over time, and I think it was, yes, about a decade ago that I read this book. Over time, as I was working with my clients, I started witnessing that there seemed to be another zone. It took me a while to like put my finger on it. I could just feel it was something different. But in working with leaders of leaders and mentors of mentors and teachers of teachers and people who've done a lot of personal development work have done a lot of work in terms of their spiritual development and who are really tapped into their multidimensionality. Many of them not only are really great manifestors or expert manifestors, they teach it to others, right? They're operating from a very different perspective than the average person. And what I noticed for these types of individuals, and this might be you if you're listening to this podcast, was that there was this existence of this new zone that we can live and lead from, which is what I call the miracle zone. And when we're tapped into the miracle frequency, we can access our miracle zone, which interestingly is not simply connected to what we're doing as an individual. It's more connected to who we are being and what energy we are intentionally plugging into and being charged with. And it stops being so much about the activities that you are doing and the results of those activities and how much more productive you are when you're in the zone, which I felt like a lot of genius zone conversations were still around the activities in the genius zone. But it comes more back to your presence and how even just this is a force of creation, just your presence, where you're almost tapped into this universal productivity plus, 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 right? Even though that's not the goal per se to be more productive, it's just the truth when you're connected to your essential primordial nature as a creator, to your creatorship. And so in the miracle zone, it's more like you're co-leading, you're in co-leadership with source and with the all, where what we're doing is just as important as what we're not doing and what we're allowing to be done on our behalf by this mycelial network of support and nourishment that we're plugged into or tapped into, both practical and spiritual. It's like this ecosystem that underpins our leadership and gives us this capacity to fly further without having to be the one doing all of the flapping of the wings, right? And so when we're tapped in the miracle zone, it's this sacred dance of doing and not doing that's creating space for the amplification and the emanation of who we are being as pillars of light, anchored in our hearts, as vessels and warriors living and leading as love in these times, as visionaries with feet on the earth, aware that we're just a piece, aware that we are a piece of a greater story that's being woven and that we signed up for and that we've been training for in this life and before, right? We're not just new to the rodeo of what it is to be here on this earth creating in this way, right? And so when we're tapped into the miracle zone, we're carried by what I call the miracle frequency, the frequency of love or above, and we are the creator, and we are the creation, and we are the created. And it's not like time feels like it's standing still per se, which is a common description of being in the flow. It's like time bends, folds, it becomes totally irrelevant, right? It ceases to be a limitation, and creation happens in ways that make no sense instantly, oftentimes when we're doing absolutely nothing, almost on our behalf. It's like we're tapped into this field of creation. And creation happens not necessarily through us because we're in the flow, but it happens because we are aware that we are the flow embodied. We know it, We feel it. We laugh and cackle in the delight of it. Our eyes tear up in the disbelief of it. We even shimmer sometimes at the grandiosity of it. Like, how is it even possible that this is happening right now? Our brains sometimes can't grasp it, right? And from this place of the miracle zone, it's like leadership feels like a ceremony, like a celebration, like a quest, and like an initiation, like all wrapped up into one. And we're leading from our light of awareness as a fractal of source, carried, held, lifted, blessed by her divine grace, Queen of Angels, while also leading from our guts, our roots, the earth, from the womb of the great mother herself for the highest good of all. From a place that is integrated, shadow and light, human divine, feminine energy, masculine energy, integrated and embodied. Oftentimes, when people talk about being in the flow, it's like an out of body experience. But when we're in the miracle zone, yes, there's this creation happening around us that we're tapped into, but we are in the body, fully inhabiting it, fully inhabiting life. We're not just alive, which another common description of being in your genius zone, you feel so alive. It's like, yes, we are alive, but not just alive. We are inhabiting all parts of us, our fullness, our multidimensionality, spirit and soul, coexisting with our humanness, imperfections, our blind spots, feeling grief and rage at the state of the world, that's allowed, while also leading with our gifts, with our wisdom, with our knowing switched all the way on. Feeling rapture for the both and, for the new way, for the birthing of a new earth, crowning. Whew, just take a breath for a moment. And from this perspective, in the miracle zone, we know that we're not just here to leave a personal legacy, but we're here to shape the collective legacy for future generations. We are aware of our power, aware of our privilege, aware of our purpose and our responsibilities as leaders that are charting a new way, as much as we're tapped into our gratitude and our pleasure and our awe for the beauty and ecstasy of this miracle that we call life. It's all welcome here. It's all present here. And in the miracle zone, leading from this place, miracles are ever present, making the impossible possible so that we don't have to carry it all on our shoulders, which often it can feel like when we're outside of the miracle zone. We're still doing so much ourselves. Resources, opportunities, partnerships appear. Bigger stages, more sales, aligned clients appear, aligned contractors, aligned team appear, aligned angel investors, aligned affiliates, aligned co-creators appear, inspiration, creativity, divine downloads appear, and they all show up for us in perfect timing. Together with the perfect lessons, which are not always easy lessons, right? But it's all in perfect right timing so that we can make good on this legacy mission that we know in our hearts that we came here for as leaders in these times. And our capacity to hold it all and receive it all also expands because we're no longer under the illusion that we are the ones doing it all. Right? It all of a sudden starts feeling ridiculous to think of things this way, right? The world needs more miracles now more than ever. And I think and I believe that we're here to lead with them front and center. Eyes wide open awake, heart wide open available, moved by beauty and moved by injustice, both. Moved by this vision of a new way that's encoded deeply in our cells. And in the miracle zone, carried by the miracle frequency, miracles, they just show up for us daily. And to such a degree that we cannot help but say yes to this wild calling on our heart to lead and steward and build businesses and institutes and temples and sanctuaries and empires of light and lineages of care and legacies of love. It makes it easy for us to say yes, even though these things are crazy to most people, right? And we can do so from overflow in a way that lights us up and actually nourishes us and those around us, instead of from a place of overextension and burnout, because we know deep down that we are not in this miracle zone alone. We are embraced and carried by this force that's far greater than us, a force that holds us as we scale our legacy business, as we make millions and impact millions for the highest good of all. It's all held. We were never meant to do it alone, and this remembrance is foundational for us as leaders in these times, in the age of Aquarius. So just take a breath and let that sink in. This Miracle Zone podcast is really dedicated to supporting you to lead more and more from your miracle zone, opening more and more to receive this support in your business as a leader, both in practical ways and in magical ways that makes it possible for you to actually be in the miracle zone. In the links, you can download the Miracle Business Blueprint and get the exact 7-part framework to create a thriving, scalable, and self-sustaining business that runs itself, so that you actually can have this spaciousness of time and energy to lead in your miracle zone. You'll also get a really short, no fluff training on where to focus first, so you can actually know which of these areas to focus on to get you in your miracle zone more. And in the next episode, I'm going to share a little bit about these 7 pillars that are underpinning your miracle business and that enables you to be in your miracle zone more. So be sure to go to the link and get the blueprint, and to subscribe and join me next time, where we'll dive into this topic a little deeper. I'll see you there. Thank you for tuning in to the Miracle Zone. Don't forget to subscribe so you never miss a transmission. And if today's episode and conversation resonated, leave a review and share it with a fellow visionary leader. In the links, you can access my free Miracle Business Blueprint, the 7-part framework I use with my clients to create a thriving, scalable, and self-sustaining business that gives you more freedom, not less. Plus, you'll receive a guided process to identify where to focus first, so you can spend more time leading in your miracle zone right away. Let's build the new as a collective for the collective. Together, we're not just creating miracles, we're living them. Until next time, stay in the miracle zone.